Why hello there, curious ones. Welcome back to the archive. I have been expecting you. What would you like to explore today? Perhaps a new document on Emperor Vitiate, perhaps? Or perhaps a manuscript recovered from Vader's fortress? No, I can see the light of malice glimmering in your eyes. Today, you want to learn about Emperor Sheev Palpatine, Darth Sidious. Darth Sidious was one of the most maniacal men the galaxy had ever seen. He took the galaxy by storm. He used the rule of two. He successfully manipulated his master Plagueis into getting drunk, killing him, despite the latter's nigh immortality and nearly foolproof method of living forever. Palpatine then went on to undermine the entire Republic, blindsiding the most powerful of the Jedi, including Master Yoda, Windu, Anakin Skywalker, Say-Tin, Plo Koon, and many other powerful Jedi in that era, despite being at arm's reach. Palpatine was a master of the dark side as well as politics, successfully maintaining his position as Supreme Chancellor for well over a decade, despite many hindrances. He started the Clone Wars at the opportune time. Just when his term was expiring, Palpatine was easily capable of being able to become one of the most fearsome men in galactic history, and certainly one of, if not the certainly most cruel and maniacal men the galaxy had ever seen. However, there is one Sith Lord who took the galaxy by storm, out of the grip of both the Jedi and the Sith alike. The Eternal Empire seemingly came out of nowhere, carved a merciless path of destruction right in the middle of the war, absolutely butchering Jedi and Sith alike, with no ally and a common enemy. The Jedi and Sith banded together against this one cruel Dark Lord. But who was this Dark Lord? As perhaps the only Sith Lord who eclipsed the malice of Lord Sidious. To start off, we're going to have to delve into who this Dark Lord actually is. Many of you are familiar with the ancient Sith Emperor Tenebrae, who governed the Eternal Empire. Tenebrae was known by many names: Vitiate, Valkorion, the Dark Lord of many faces, and a multitude of others. Vitiate was one of the most cruel men in all of galactic history, and in my personal opinion, is the one Dark Lord to be more cruel and malevolent than Lord Sidious. So, allow us to take a deep dive into the ideology of Vitiate, his personality and traits, and what truly made him the most evil man and cruel dictator the galaxy had ever seen. Almost from birth, the Emperor of the Sith was unusual in that he seemed to lack emotion and empathy, something that would remain a consistent factor throughout his life that separated him from many other Sith, regardless of the host body he would adopt. As a child, Tenebrae felt no affection for his mother, stepfather, or birth father, with him torturing his mother for days before finally killing her, instantly snapping his stepfather's neck with telekinesis, driving his birth father insane, and only then did Tenebrae kill him. It was not long after his powers manifested that he discovered how to feed and gorge himself on the fear and suffering of those around him. As a child, he was a cruel and merciless ruler, massacring hundreds and thousands simply to satiate his hunger for anguish and pain. As a Sith Lord, Vitiate became known as more of a scholar than a warrior on the battlefield, deeming various menial tasks such as fighting on the front lines, as Sith like Darth Malgus and Darth Vader would often employ, as menial tasks that were below him. He spent much of his century-long rule over Nathema, formerly known as Medrails, delving into the mysteries of the dark side, while other Sith became feared warriors and conquered new worlds from the glory of the Empire. Vitiate was content to remain on Nathema, even when the rest of the Sith Lords, such as Naga Sadow and Ludo Kresh, went to war against the Republic. However, his public persona of a scholar was merely a sham, and by the time he entered the second century of his lifetime, he was calculating, manipulative, cunning, and patient enough to sit by while his plans took years to reach completion. He had the patience of stone and the will of stars, as the Old Republic game states. He was truly a level beyond Sidious. He had the natural force connection and evil of someone such as Nihilus, a very entity and vergence in the Force. However, he had the cunning and mind of Palpatine. Put those two together, and you get single-handedly the most evil man the galaxy had ever seen. When news of Naga Sadow's cataclysmic defeat at the end of the Great Hyperspace War reached the ears of the people, Vitiate was able to carefully drive the rest of the Empire into a frenzy of panic, and herd them as he wished, manipulating them like cattle. He also revealed his true persona to the 8,000 Sith Lords who heeded his call on Nathema, The reclusive scholar crushed their might and bound their will to his own indomitable will. The ritual performed on Anathema affected the Emperor beyond just his strength in the Force. The price of immortality meant he no longer experienced any of the senses that normal people possess. Taste, touch, smell, colour, and even emotion meant nothing to the Emperor. He lacked the capacity to experience any of them, and deemed them meaningless, below him, like the rest of the beings in the galaxy. He did not care, however, as such mortal concerns were now beneath him and his power. His servant Lord Scourge, whom was subjected to a scientific ritual, creation of his immortality ritual, came to realize during his 3 centuries of service that the Sith ruler had transcended his humanity and mortality even within his own mind. The Emperor sacrificed the ability to feel anything, separating himself away from the rest of the universe in the most fundamental ways and convincing himself that he was a dark side god. Later in life, his belief that he was above all things led to him as a desire to escape from the Sith teachings and methods, and the traffic to the Sith Empire, and so he began anew in the unknown regions, separating a portion of his consciousness into the Zakulian warrior Valkorion. In his search for various methods to completely escape death, unlike beings prior like Darth Endedu, Darth Plagueis, and many other ancient Sith Lords and more modern Sith Lords, he did not stop at just one method or immortality. Vitiate used multiple, so he would be eternally positioned to live forever. Death was merely something that Vitiate could not shrug off. It was not like most Sith. Vitiate feared death far more than any other Sith Lord in history, even more than Darth Plagueis, so he did everything he could to personify his need to live forever. In his search for a way to completely evade death, the one true thing he truly feared, the Emperor delved into many arcane and lost techniques of the dark side, hoarding them all to himself, developing ways to link his consciousness with those of other beings. He soon gave a significant number of servants who were fanatically loyal and intricately linked with their master. As the reach of his consciousness grew even greater, expanding across the galaxy like a plague, he became careful of dividing his focus among multiple agents of his will across the galaxy, while still maintaining complete possession of his current voice. Because of that ability, those who received audiences with the Emperor, an extremely rare and honourable task and honour in the Sith Emperor, often gained the correct impression that the Sith was listening to other conversations while even speaking, from around the galaxy. The Emperor who ruled the Sith was motivated by only 2 emotions he could still fear: hunger for power and the fear of losing it. Revan's subconscious manipulations of the Emperor while he was in prison further augmented the Sith's fear of death, pushing him to the point of irrationality and fueling his desire to become truly and utterly immortal. As his spirit had been rendered immortal by the ritual of Anathema and later Zyos, his perception of time and patience extended as well, something that led him to meticulously and carefully work for centuries towards goals that might not even have accomplished. The hopes, desires, and concerns of all living beings in the galaxy meant nothing to him, and all other beings were like ants, blind insects, contemplating the void of space. His will was utter and absolute. If the Emperor's ritual had been completed, the Sith would have spent eternally fulfilling any desire that he had. Over the course of his life, he became to desire peace for the galaxy, but peace in the form of utter and complete emptiness and annihilation. When he touched Scourge with his mind, the mental contact drove the Sith Lord nearly insane, despite it only lasting less than a second. Scourge's perception of the Emperor's mind was one filled with indescribable horrors, with the emptiness of complete annihilation lurking beneath its surface. In contrast, Darth Sidious, while an incredibly evil man, had worked his entire life to becoming Emperor and dictator across the galaxy, and even had to order Darth Vader, his own hard-forged apprentice, to stop murdering his officers and advisors, as well as the citizens, with barely any reason, only to satiate Vader's lust for power and for death, as well as revenge on all beings who had ever supported the Republic. Darth Sidious's famous quote, "I do not want to rule over the galaxy of the dead," would have disgusted Vitiate. Vitiate, by contrast, this was exactly what he wanted. When the hero of Tython began to oppose him, the Emperor professed a lack of concerns for the knight's success against his agents. But over the course of his service, Scourge had come to realize what little emotion remained in his master, and the emotions that the Emperor was feeling were fear and hatred. He had truly gone to a level of evil beyond even Sidious, as he lived for far longer, dominated multiple empires, and had no qualms with murdering anyone who got in his way. He was even content with murdering his own daughter and his own children, as well as his wife as Valkorion, if it meant that he could live forever. Vitiate wanted to become a Force god. He had no interest in becoming an emperor, a Sith emperor, an eternal emperor even. He wanted to be a literal deity of the Force. Scourge used the powers of Revan and his Voss host to gauge into the future. The Emperor saw the possibility of his own death at the hands of the hero of Typhon, provoking even more terror within him. The threat terrified the immortal ruler, and he became more and more anxious to complete the dark ritual again to ensure his absolute perpetual life. But the hero was ultimately able to strike down the Emperor in the battle just as he is foreseen. However, the Emperor's personality as Valkorion was remarkably different. While still relatively emotionless and supremely confident in his actions, Valkorion experienced a degree of fondness for Senua Tirel, and the two were happy for a time before his sons were born. Valkorion retained his near-universal indifference even with his children, expressing no affection for them, other than designating Vaylin his favourite, although he repeatedly expressed contempt from the violent behaviour exhibited by her and her brother Arcan, with Vaylin only being ousted as his favourite due to the fact she was the most dangerous and had the most Force attunement. Valkorion also showed no concern at the prospect of losing his children, displaying no reaction upon the death of Fexan, and using Vaylin's death to his advantage by turning her spirit into a mindless puppet. He even encouraged the Outlander to try to kill Arcan on multiple occasions, encouraging the death of his own son. During his observation of the galaxy during the Galactic War, the Emperor became intrigued by an individual who would be eventually known as the Outlander. After the invasion of Zyas, the Emperor returned entirely to his Valkorion form, and dedicated himself to retooling the Eternal Empire, judging the Sith Empire was not worth saving, and the Jedi and Republic unworthy of annihilation. But even then, his machinations, when the Outlander was brought before him, he offered to share his power, believing the Outlander was unique in a way that they affected the galaxy, just like himself. He expected Arcan's betrayal and used it to his advantage, transferring his power and consciousness to the Outlander's body, to live forever as a heroic liberator. This is truly ridiculous. Darth Sidious's most famous quote, "I do not want to live over a galaxy of the dead," is something that completely disgusted Vitiate. In contrast, this is exactly what Vitiate wanted. He would only have sanctuary and peace if every living thing in the galaxy was instantly annihilated and condemned to the void of chaos. Hence why he tried so desperately in order to complete his Nathemic ritual, but this time on the entire galaxy. Vitiate had spent millennia preparing for it, and now it was go time. Before closing off, I would like to play one quote on the Emperor's duel with the hero of Typhon. The hero of Typhon hailed as the greatest Jedi of his age and was prophesied by Lord Scourge to defeat Emperor Vitiate as his Sith persona. One last thing before I play the clip. Many of the Sith and Jedi who have abducted themselves into our order have not actually registered themselves in our archives. If you want to become a member, I implore you, please hit the subscribe button, click the like button, and tell me what you would like for the next video. Whether it be a video on Darth Sidious, Grandmaster Yoda, or perhaps even some more upcoming Star Wars shows like The Bad Batch and Acolyte. Goodbye, my friends, and I'll let the clip play. And remember, I'll see you in a galaxy far, far away.
The circle closes. The end begins. You dissipated your energy saving the weak. There are consequences. life spans millennia. Legions have risen to test me.
If you kill everyone in the galaxy, you'll be the Emperor of nothing. What's the point of all this?
You discern a fraction of reality. Beyond these stars exist other galaxies, other worlds, other beings. I will experience or ignore them as I wish. I will spend eternity becoming everything. A farmer, an artist, a simple man. When the last living thing in the universe finally dies, I will enjoy peace and wait for the cycle to begin again.
You will never possess that kind of power.
There is no death. There is only the Force. And I am its master. My ascendance is inevitable. A day, a year, a millennium, it matters not. I hold the patience of stone and the will of stars. Your striving is insignificant. Let your death be the same. You harness immense power, but you lack the purity of will to direct it. I will not be contained. I cannot be redeemed. Death is all that remains, and you will not kill me.
You've underestimated me for the last time. It's finished, Lord Scourge. I killed the Emperor.
I can sense him fading, but he is not gone.
I must die. Everything dies with me.
The temple is coming apart. We have to leave. Get back to your ship.